Hi there, and welcome to Sweeties. We are usually two longtime friends who discuss the riveting and trashy world of reality TV and docuseries through our own lenses, which right now it's singularly my lens. At the end of the day, hopefully something mildly sweet, and that is what I'm giving to you, Chris. Solely Chris. My name is Chris Farah, and welcome to Sweeties. My co-host Wa is out. However, I will be giving you, and this is the first time this has happened, I think, on the Sweeties podcast, a singular recap review of Traitors Season 3, Episode 1 to 3. Honey, it's just me and it's just you. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. It's also Alan. Of the first 3 episode drop that happened on Netflix. And now I realize it is also airing on streaming. I'm sorry, it's also airing on cable TV, which is great. So great for them, great for us. This is a favorite reality show of mine that is brand new on the landscape, but feels familiar and had felt familiar immediately from A, we talked about it season 2, but also B, for me, Chris Farah, because I always enjoyed Mafia as a party game growing up. If you are someone who played Mafia, and then other people said it was called Werewolf, it had a whole different thing. Mafia was for me, people were obviously part of the mafia, and then people were police, and people were the regular townsfolk that were either being killed, hunted by the mafia, or of course being tried to be protected by the police. And then the mafia could easily kill the police, and that, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it was always a fun game. And it feels very theater nerdy of me, but I think it wasn't just me. I think it was an early aughts game. However, the first episode of Traitors, of course, is great because we get to really settle into a fabulous new cast, insane wardrobe, absolutely beautiful visuals of the Scottish castles and highlands, and like fun personalities, because it's kind of like Big Brother, because in Big Brother, you have like you have comps and you vote people off and people all live together. And it's, but Real Housewives people are there. Now, from the first season, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but I do want you to know these people are not living together in this castle, although they want us to think of it. Of course, they want us to see the B footage of them going to bed, just putting on their fabulous silk pajamas if you're, you know, one of the housewives, and drifting off together like if each one is in its own in-suite castle room. That's not the case. They're staying, what I heard is like a nondescript airport Edinburgh hotel. So anyway, the first episode, let battle commence, honey. So in the first shot, it's a fab opening. Alan is wearing what I thought looked like a long blonde merkin, a wig, right where his pubic hair would be, in front of his kilt. Now, you can tell me that that is a traditional Scottish thing and that I am abhorrent for saying this. You could say, Chris, like that's what was the kill to, like they used to take this freshly slaughtered kills, their hides, strap them to their kilts, and that was like how they knew that they had hunted well. And I'll say sure, but also just looked like a big ass fucking blonde ass long pubic wig. And I'm not saying I didn't like it. By the way, your girl, me, did some research. Sam Spector is the brilliant stylist. I don't feel like that's a debatable situation, of not only this season of Traitors, but the past season of Traitors, and in himself a celebrity stylist. And you can really see how fun and theatrical and exciting and playful this is. Like, I know this, I'm not really someone who, I said this to Matt of Reality Gaze, I'm not someone who really enjoys men's fashion, A, because I don't care, and female fashion is like so fun. And I say female, I mean like in the old genderfied word of it, in that kind of sense. Like men's fashion always to me just was pants. Okay. You're like pants and something, because I really don't, I never like to see really men's legs that much unless it's being called for. So it's like, what can they do? You know what I'm saying? But this fashion that I get to see on this show has really made me bite my tongue and appreciate, men's fashion in a way that I haven't before. So, we get the cast. Let's just, talk about it really quickly. Okay, so of the people I know, of the people I don't know. I wrote this, he. Okay, my loves. Let's go down really quickly so we're all on the same page. Um, there is. I should have been okay. Bob Harper. Now we all know him from The Biggest Loser. I feel like everyone knows him. Bob Harper, when The Biggest Loser was a thing, reality show where they had just really, morbidly obese people, and it was thrilling television at the time. A really kind of pervasive early aughts, you know, like the Swan kind of show where people were like enamored with seeing huge glow ups or whatever. And, you know, just the like thrill of a makeover. It was a makeover show, obviously. So he's on it. And it also has mm, Bob. So Bob the trainer, Bob the drag queen. And we're going to differentiate between the two Bobs in that way. Sometimes the Bob the DQ, honey, we'll get Bob the DQ. The Dairy Queen. I'm just kidding, but no, God bless. Brittany from Big Brother. Now, I did not know Brittany, and I even like Big Brother, but didn't know her. Caroline from Survivor, who I also didn't know. And the pictures of Caroline and Survivor and the Caroline that we have now are two different people. That person obviously got a nose job and lip injections and lost a bunch of weight, and that person does that person. God bless. Um, Chanel Ian. So I think they call it. Her name goes. She goes by her last name Ian from the Real Housewives of Dubai. Another show I never watched before, but oh my God, what a fan making turn. What a, first of all, absolutely sassy and I mean drop dead gorgeous woman who dresses fabulously. And upon the first day of the house, I feel like she entrances people. Wells to be one of them. And okay. Chriselle, who I also didn't know from Selling Sunset, but my God, her face and her personality is so beauty pageant. But in her bio, she says she was also like in All My Children and stuff like that. And I guess I can see her being an actress, but it's almost like, God, she always reminds me of like, it's very pageanty. She's Jessica Simpson-esque also to me. Sierra Miller from Summer House, another one I didn't see. Sierra is also unbelievably gorgeous. Like her eyes are ridiculous. Later on, three girls are going to call themselves the Bambis. And they say that it's because they have big eyes. And one of them doesn't have big eyes at all, which is LOL to me. Well, I'm like, oh, do you? Okay, come on. Because no one has bigger eyes on God's green earth than Sierra. I don't know what she does on Summer House, honey. Just like, but I mean, those are some, peepers. Danielle from Big Brother. I also didn't know Danielle. I don't know her. Don't know her. But what it's interesting, her and Caroline have this interesting demeanor, like the way that they present themselves in the house, which is very nervous, which makes her seem non-threatening, which feels like this intuitive way in which it's very interesting the ways in which women have to be non-threatening, how anyone chooses to be non-threatening, and the ways in which women choose to be non-threatening, and the ways in which men in this house, we'll talk about traitors, don't have to worry about being threatening at all. The ones that are either traitors or not traitors. So that's just interesting in itself. Caroline and Danielle are mousy a little bit. Like they're always nervous, they're always like worried, they're always like highly emotional, always like, Danielle's highly emotional in the sense that she'll cry, and then Caroline's always like nervous, frenetic energy. And it's just, having said this, we'll get later why I'm not calling them out as being bad. It's gameplay. And I love gameplay. Okay. Obviously, docu-sweeties, well, I don't know if this is obvious, never got to talk about Big Brother. It's like an impossible show to cover. There's 3 episodes a week on normal television, and if you're a fan, which like, it will suck you in, you're watching, like, the feeds and the After Dark, like, you can't possibly recap all that. You're insane. I mean, the funny thing is, to be a Big Brother fan, I know, is the closest thing to being, I'm assuming, like, a football fan who's playing fantasy football at the same time. Like, if you were a hardcore football fan and had your team you were obsessed with, like, which I guess many people do, and you were invested in it in a way because you were playing fantasy football, that's what I assume being a hardcore Big Brother is like. For like 3 months out of the year, you're just, I mean, enamored with watching these dumb people. Okay, so, all right. So, besides Danielle, we also have Dolores from The Real Housewives of New Jersey. And I love Dolores, and I'm a Real Housewives of New Jersey fan from back in the day. I haven't watched every new season, but I know all the drama, and definitely Dolores has always, unfortunately been under the shadow of others, and I've always loved Dolores. Like, I think that she has, the cheekbones that will like kill someone in a Sophia Loren style. But because of Teresa and because of Melissa and because of like all the other ones, she's just a lost shouting person that doesn't even shout, a lost New Jersey accent in a sea of like brown haired ladies that like love, leopard. There have been people on New Jersey that I've detested. And there have been people on New Jersey that I cannot remember. And there's been, for sure. And there's been people on New Jersey that like I love and will always love and wish they would bring back. And obviously, like, to me, it's crazy that Danielle's not on it. I don't know why Bravo gave Teresa so much power, because it feels like Teresa was like, I will work with this person, I won't work with that person. Danielle should be in the cast. I don't really care about Melissa anymore. I almost more care about Joe, if he would just like do more things, because Melissa's boring, but Joe is where it's at. Okay. So, my babes, let's move on. Besides Dolores, Dorinda, who also another housewife from The Real Housewives of New York City. I do know, and I'm excited about it. I did watch a lot of her on it, and I think that she is the perfect kind of mafia-esque character for this. And that comes on the heels of me watching The Penguin. And my dad is like rewatching The Sopranos. So I have a love for Dorinda right now. Then there's Dylan Efron, Zac Efron's brother. He is Zac Efron's brother. He has the same sort of really crystal, beautiful colored eyes, but sort of they squint a little bit on the sides. And he has what looks like the fluffiest Efron eyelashes. You like those Efron kind of caramel, gingery, light brown eyelashes that just like flutter, in front of crystal lake blue eyes. I mean, what are you gonna do? That's the genes. I don't know what he's doing with his life besides this. Oh, he's appeared on the Netflix series Down to Earth with him. Well, okay, he's trying to be an actor. Well, okay, fine. Gabby Wendy from The Bachelorette. Now, I sort of remembered her from one of the Bachelorettes where there were two. Okay. Then I will tell you that Gabby looks to me like a very cute, and I mean that, very cute Cabbage Patch girl. Cabbage Patch. Baby. Baby Patch doll. And again, I'm going to tell you this right now. I had a lot of Cabbage Patches growing, a lot of them growing up. I had one for years that was bald with it was a preemie with not real hair, or not like even like fake, like synthetic hair, but just like alfalfa sprout of yellow like yarn that would just stick out because it was a preemie, you know. And this is the dumbest. I had two dolls. One was that baby I just talked about, which is I'll still call her my baby, the Cabbage Patch doll. Her name was Ashley. She had a sister that wasn't a Cabbage Patch, that was a little older than her. Again, how of course, one's a preemie, I couldn't have a younger one. It'd be medically impossible. It was already medically impossible for, like, my six-year-old ass to have these two kids, but whatever, God bless. She had an older sister, went with her everywhere. The sister was a toddler, we won't ask questions. Sister's name was Laura. So I could say, "These are my daughters, Laura and Ashley." Okay, so moving on. Jeremy from Survivor, he's a fireman, he's lovely. I don't okay, so I don't know Survivor. I won't know any of the Survivor people, period. Then there's, like, like, they always have, like, a random, like, British person. I'm assuming because two things: A, Alan is UK. Also, B, because there's a full UK version of the show that's wildly popular with a female non-Alan host that's also known for her fashion. I think her name is Claudia. And so I think just for having, like, a crossover audience, they, for some reason, always have, like, some British celebrity. And there's all the British celebrities we Americans don't know. You know, they have their, like, Kardashians, and they're all versions that are on the tabloids, like, you know, they're Robbie Williams and all. They're just like things. Just side note, it's so sorry. It's like for Americans, and maybe transversely for any UK or Canadians, the first time you go to another English country and see their magazines, it's always wildly interesting. Like, I remember the first time I was, like, 15 and I went to England and I could see, like, the English teen magazines. Like, I love them, right? Like, and I remember buying all of them because I was like, "Oh," it was like, you know, they'd be like, how to find the guy to snog." And I was snog, by the way, means to make out with. And I just, like, thought that was, well, I mean, thought that was something I definitely needed to know. So Lord Ivar Mountbatten, British royal. Mountbatten, he says that he's a British aristocrat member of the extended British royal family as a second cousin to King Charles III. Yeah, he's related to Diana. Now, I can't remember anything else about that, uh, except that he's gay, which, I mean, his okay, by the way, I think that he yeah, so I think that he said he was married to a woman for a long time. Oh, he wrote this down. And then, yeah, he was married to a woman a long time and he came out, he's gay. And then I think that also Gabby, the bachelorette, said that she was bi. Okay, so let's see. Oops. Then there's Nikki Garcia, she has a sister Bree, part of the Bella twins. They had a show, of course, on E for a long time, but they're retired professional wrestlers. And Bella, I want to say, is the one that almost married John Cena, or tried to, or that's what the show was about, I think. I never saw it. But it was part of that E Glory Day. Whatever happened to E? Is E still happening? Is that even I don't even know if it's a network, honey. I'm not quite sure. So then there's Boston Rob from Survivor. He loves a hat, either on top of his head the right way or on a backwards hat. Doesn't like his head. Honey's like a Gino from 90 Day Fiance. Loves a hat, hates his naked head. Robin Dixon from the Real Housewives of Potomac, who don't know either, but boy, does she has fabulous eyes. And Sam Ashgary, of course, Britney Spears' ex-husband, who is known for being Britney Spears' ex-husband of maybe nefarious motives. I'm not quite sure. You tell me. Tom Sandoval from Vanderpump Rules. I'm like the entire podcast sphere's only podcast host that doesn't watch Vanderpump Rules. You know, don't watch it. I I don't watch it, and, I don't know why I don't watch it. Sometimes I think it's because I didn't watch Real Housewives of Orange County either. I think there must be something that subconsciously happens to me if I feel like I'm too close to something, and I feel like I don't wanna watch it from that point, and or I was inundated at the time with too much Bravo, and I was either coming out of it or feeling like I couldn't devote any more time, and suddenly, as people dive more and more into something, and as, you didn't do it, you become sort of like apathetic and almost like no about it. And that's what happened with me with Vanderpump Rules, to the point where it exploded with this dumb thing where he cheated on the Ariana and the someone or other, God bless. And I mean, the entire world stopped and talked about it. I mean, what a cultural moment that I just had no part of. And yet I call myself a pop culture curator. I'm not telling you I'm proud, but there's also a Tony from Survivor. There's Wells from Bachelor in Paradise, who was on JoJo Fletzer's season, and I think he's married to Sarah Hyland now, right? I don't know why they don't talk about that. Or he was dating her. I don't really know. But he after that, he's also got a stint being the bartender on Bachelor in Paradise, which is probably the best gig on television, I think. Um I mean, the best gig on television is probably the gig in which you like own your own network and then just can never be canceled and can literally canceled by, someone, like an executive. But I guess would be Andy Cohen, but I don't know if he owns, I mean, but he certainly is in a cushy spot. So you tell me. So, let's go back. So after the opening, Dorinda, by the way, had a Scottish ex-husband. She's happy to be back. Sam, by the way, Brittany's ex-husband, is gonna say absolutely 4 words throughout the entire thing. I mean, if he tried to be on here for a personality, they didn't even tell him to do anything. All he does is not talk. I mean, like, they were like, "Don't talk about Brittany," and then he took that to mean, "Don't open your mouth, period." I mean, and it's funny because I guess, it's a show that you have to, like, be secretive, but for someone who we don't know and has no personality known to us and can't talk about the thing that, like, we know him for. Okay. Um, so we also get some of the backstory from some of the gamers. Tony is from Survivor, and he had 8 bugs, and he feels like he's adaptable. Big brother Brittany stabbed Danielle in the back, and that's why Danielle and her have a whole thing. Oh wait, that's wrong. Was Brittany from? Yeah, so I was right. Danielle and Brittany. Um, they drive up in their cars, are greeted at this fabulous mansion, honey. It's people in black robes and gold masks and the wooden steps. It's terrifying. It's their greeters. To me in LA, it's very haunted hayride. One of the first years of the haunted hayride that happens at Griffith Park. Is this year where you would pull up on like a church. I talk about it sometimes with no walls, and there was a congregation in, I mean, black coats, cloaks, and a priest in front. At one point, they all turn and their eyes are red and it ran toward the hayride. It was horrifying. It reminded me of that PTSD. They like to make it very scary. So Bob, the drag queen, wants headfirst into trouble in a gorgeous blue feathered outfit with a hat, and it's indicative, I think, of his style of gameplay. Jeremy and Tony from Survivor and Carolyn are all there. Bob the drag queen, Bob DQ meets Bob the biggest loser. Bob from the biggest loser. It's a very warm, lovely sort of like, I don't know, moment they have together. It's interesting, of course, to have this melting pot of all these people. And the amount of which they've known about each other or have done research is of interest. How much prep they have, and how much they care and what their natural personalities, say with how they greet each other is always very interesting and how they talk about each other. Zac Efron's brother, as we said, his name is Dylan, and those Efron eyelashes meets Bachelorette star Wells, and that feels good. It's little bro and bro. Wells is, a little. God, who does he remind me of? He's Penn. Badgley-esque, from Gossip Girl. The kind of like IQ higher, not as dumb. You have back and forths with them that are charming and flirty. And so it's charming and hot in that kind of way. Okay. When Brittany sees Danielle, they start crying from Big Brother, and she apologizes for hurting Danielle. Says she was more angry at herself for believing in someone, and it's hard because I've never been on a gamer show, and I would love to be on. Well, obviously the Traitors. I would love to be. I think that the Traitors is by far the game show I would like to be on the most. Unfortunately, at season 3 has and 2 has moved on from season 1. You have to be somewhat famous. So you guys do your work, but I think it'll be really good at it because yes, you have to be good at gameplay, social gameplay, and you have to know that people are going to fuck you over. And you have to know that people are going to try and lie. So you cannot be upset if there are emotions or loud lies being said, and you have to know how to play. Now, I don't know why some people don't know how to play. It's a hard situation because the way to play is not give anything and strategize when to give something. And yet the producers are like talk talk talk. Okay. So enter Alan on a horse. Bob calls Alan an icon and stunning. Bob the drag queen. And that's true. He says that he can say this that Bob is iconic and stunning as a gay guy from New York City, which is of course is the ultimate knowledge for like taste and style in this way. But I mean, I have loved Alan from Circle of Friends. Alan's Emma, that he always played in the 90s like a fucked up, perverse, weird, sinister, creepy guy who you just like never knew what he was up to. Oh, I loved it. Okay, so very iconic. And of course, his MC from Cabaret with Natasha Richardson in the Sam Mendes production is a legendary like Broadway production. It's not the original, obviously. It's not the one that's on Broadway now, but Okay, so basically he says that there is the possibility for a brand new contestant, and all you have to do is come, shake his hand, and then someone will immediately be exiled. And in his place will be Boston Rob from Survivor. Boston Rob sees that no one shakes his hand. Now, no one can shake Alan's hand at first because it's a big, bold move that would put a target on their back and also would make someone mad right away. But, here we are. I say Chriselle is the one from Selling Sunset with polka dot unique vintage outfits and a high waterfall hairstyle. Um, God. Yeah, like her look, it's interesting because Gabby's looks are really killing. Chriselle's looks are almost from like 3 years ago. There's something kind of like Barbie and Elm from Legally Blonde about all of her looks. So anyway, Boston says if someone comes and gets him, that they will already be his ally and have a chance to get rid of someone. Um, I say Caroline from Survivor. I say looks like Kim Zolciak if she worked at a tattoo shop as an artist assistant. And she kind of like weighs getting rid of Jeremy and Tony because they're manipulative men from Survivor. She knows them, but then who would you get? Another manipulative man. And my God, isn't that there's the rub. They enter the house and there's a picture of Andy Cohen framed, which, you know, I get this is like an NBC Universal show, I think, right? Or they have to like placate to Andy to get all those housewives. So, Ayan says that she is used to be paid to be stunning, but now she must activate her brain. And my God, she is like, she does look like a young Iman a little bit to me. It's interesting because her Wells, these people are not gamers. So Wells from, of course, Bachelor and Bachelorland, Bachelor Nation, is scared of the people like from Big Brother and Survivor who are used to the tactic playing. Then, Ivan Mountbatten tells his own story that everyone is impressed that he's gay and, married a bloke after being married to a woman for 12 years. I'm always just like, yeah, whatever happened to that? But, that poor woman. I mean, maybe, what did she get out of it? Was she married to royalty and did she get to be royal for the rest of her life? Or her kids set for life? I just, just it's very Colton from Bachelor. Like it's funny because when Colton from Bachelor came out, it was great that like, someone always is nice when someone comes out. But there's always this sadness of like, oh, you really like wasted at this point 30 people's time and energy. And for this man, 12 years of some woman's life. But I like to think that maybe there was an upside to her. I don't know what it is yet. I'll do some research. So here's the thing. Obviously, coming into the show, just like just there's parallels to RuPaul's Drag Race. There gets to be one-on-ones. And it happens instead of like at the end, it happens early on. And in this case, instead of the contestants pleading their case like I want to win, it's more like I want to be a traitor. Or not, but I want to be a traitor because if you're a traitor, you get to do things in the show. And if you are not, you are just sitting ducks. I mean, and obviously for the gamers, they all want to play. At the same time, you can't make every good gamer a traitor. You're going to make all of the brothel people just like sad. Well, ends up being this way. Sad cases, sad, hopeless, futile cases, honey. Just whole sitting ducks, like I already said it. Snakes in a shooting snakes in a barrel. That's like a very Southern thing for me to say. So Nikki says that she's a WWE person, that she can do it. Jeremy's like, I'm a fighter who won Survivor. I want this money for my family. Dolores, I love for this because she has a dad that was a chief of police and she wants to be bad. And I want this so bad for Dolores. Tom for Vanderpump Rules is there. And he looks so sweaty. What a coked out, sweaty person who at some point, I can't tell if he had a stylist for this. If he did have a stylist, then I will say that a stylist absolutely is like Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, look the years 2020, 2008 to 2010. Like I feel like 2006 to 2008. Like that is like the mood board for it. But it's just greasy hair and big eyes. And even his energy on camera at all times makes me and I never watched again Vanderpump Rules or what he was there, but on this show, he's uneasy. So then we, of course, have our round table where it's like a duck duck goose mixed with heads up 7 Up. But this is truly going back to like the love of the actual house party game of this. This is the best part of the game when you are dealing out who's going to be who. Now, when you play at a party, sometimes it just happens with like a deck of cards where you take out like all of the jacks and like the kings and like the numbers, and you kind of like make your own deck with the numbers of, let's just say like the jacks are the mafia, the kings are like the police, and the numbered cards are the people. You would know which one is which. You would just pass them out and someone would look at their own card and know who they were. Unless you have a facilitator. And in this case, the facilitator is Alan. And in this situation is interesting because around the round table, he just walks around slowly and he's wearing, various noisy fabrics on his person, clunking around on hard sole shoes, on hardwood floors. It's just probably the most ASMR creaky thing. I'm sure there's a fireplace crackling in the background. And just around the table he goes and sort of mocks, raising his hand behind certain people and putting his hand back, slowly stopping just to throw fucking people off. But he picks Danielle first, who's from Big Brother, and she's thrilled. Alan then picks Caroline, who is from Survivor, and she wants to scream. And does a couple more faking, and then picks Bob, the DQ, the drag queen. Then it's done. The minute it's done, Tom aggressively takes off his mask again, wildly, and like stares at people because he's like, I'm gonna take my mask off as soon as possible, and I'm going to look at everyone in the eyes and figure out what's happening. It's kind of like that one person that does that after you cheers them. Like when you do like a big group cheers and someone's like not enjoying the cheers and not enjoying like the clink, and as much as they really want to like make it clear that they're going to look everyone in the eyes, and trying to find the person that didn't make eye contact for long enough to like call them out on like, hey, you didn't look at me. It's kind of like that, except that person has done a bunch of coke. Okay, so Bob the drag queen isn't into it, calls it mad dogging, which is funny. Tom accuses Chriselle of being weird immediately or feeling like he saw something, and says that she's scared. Nikki accuses Tom, and Tony says Chriselle, but Sam, Dylan, and Ivan Baton sort of like click off. Bob the drag queen, Bob the trainer, and there's Jeremy sort of click off, and they kind of say that Carolyn is unpredictable and argue if she could be a traitor. Now, of course she is. Bob the drag queen knows that. Zach's brother throws Tom under the bus for Chriselle, who is friends with Tom's ex, Ariana, and tries to drop the Tom's not gonna like me because, as we all know and the world knows, he fucked up his relationship with his ex, and everyone's on his ex side, the world is, and including me. And so he knows that me and the world hate him, and so he's gonna be mad at the world and me. Is like kind of what she's saying, a little bit. I'm also like, it's funny to me that she's the only one of all these reality stars, including a bunch of Bravo people, that is the only one in Tom's world. That, I guess because she's in LA, but like Ciara doesn't know. Brittany, I don't know. Ciara? None of the housewives, like Robin? Okay. Um so Zach's bro also is a former Iron Man, which is exciting for him. And that will things will keep him around, which is of course the importance of being a physical comp beast, which you forget should be important, because what also should be important is that everyone's trying to get money for a big pot at the end that they share or not share. But like, people don't care so much about the money or getting enough money or making enough money, especially people like Phaedra from season 2, which anyway, it's interesting. They keep trying to make that a thing. So they all go and like black sweats to a lake, and there's a big dragon kind of Viking vessel. And what they have to do, and like this is their first comp challenge, is collect all the fuel. They have to stop on various platoons. Seems easy. Collect all the fuel, then go all the way back and set a ring of flame, wherein in the middle they have put themselves and as much gold as they can get, which is 40K for the pot, which again no one really cares about because they're all like celebrities. So like, money is not as important. I don't know. Whoever wants a shield can be safe from murder by putting themselves in the middle. It's all of that. So Sierra from Summer House is gorgeous and has a loud voice. They start on this rowing journey, and Ciara is like the rower, or sorry, is the talker, the barker. Bob the drag queen tries to teach them how to do like a heave ho, and then Tony jumps up onto the first platoon, and they realize that every time they stop at a platoon, two players have to be shackled in order for them to get the fuel. And if they are shackled there, they are not, of course, going to be able to come back and then be in the circle, flamed, therefore not getting safety. They have to sacrifice people. So Robin volunteers, and then Anne says she often runs into situations without thinking so, and does so as well, running in because she thought that she'd be done rowing and not realizing that sacrificing herself, of course, means that she gets no shield. At the new pontoon, of course, they also realize that each time they have to sacrifice, it's going to be just, I mean, no barred, absolutely insane fight to the finish because people don't want to sacrifice themselves because they are selfish and they're game players and they want to be immune. But they have to get the fuel, so or not. So they literally just have these standoffs and they realize it's like a nightmare. So the second time happens, Dorinda and Dolores volunteer, which of course the Dudees from the Real Housewives of New Jersey and New York are. I'll be honest, it's the natural duo you think would be like not only all the D's I said, the Dorinda Dolores duo, but fast friends. I'll tell you they're not. Their energy for being mafia-esque, strong, East Coast, seasoned women, they neither on the show nor on this platoon don't vibe in like the way that you feel like in a Kiki style way. Okay, just saying. I guess in the way that you would want them to, or the way that I think that I would like them to in my fantasy, which is just a bunch of like, I want them to get drunk together on red wine, like smoking cigars together and like talking about all the Italian men that they've fucked over. Like, don't you want that? Ugh. So people think that the volunteers that are just getting off the platoon must not be scared to not be safe because they also could be traitors. So there's like a dual-edged sword of not only do you not want to get off the boat so that you get to be safe, but the knowledge that if you do, it looks like you aren't afraid of being killed. And if you aren't afraid of being killed, you must be a traitor. So it's like a catch-22, if you will. So, Mountbatten tries to keep leaving women after women, but Bob, the drag queen, uses that as a reason to get off and says that because also he's a traitor. And so he knows that he is safe. At the same time, he is like being a little demonstrative, although I appreciate it, in his defense of women having to volunteer and sacrifice themselves over and over again for the men compies to continue on because they're selfish and they won't. No men are volunteering, so he can, and therefore also he doesn't. He's a traitor. So the platoon leftovers are upset, and Dorinda cries later on when they realize that after sacrificing themselves and after Bob the drag queen gets off, there's really no one else that's going to like sacrifice. So they won't get all the money. They don't finish what they can. They end up just going back, setting fire, and then the people who were safe go home, and the people on all the platoons are left there and then come home later. So when they come home later, everyone else has already been like showered and eaten, and they're pissed, and that's Dorinda. Dorinda's very upset. She's crying. She calls it Traitor Island, Sam Ashgari and Bob, who were the only ones that, the men that tried to stay besides Bob, the drag queen, and Sam just doesn't say anything at all. Um, have nothing to say. By the way, the food that they serve back and for dinner always looks good. And I'm not just saying that. They're always remarking, oh, it's so yummy or whatever. And Dorinda is so upset that how good the food looks that she can't have any when she gets back. She's so upset that people start to suspect Dorinda. They literally have one shot of Sam scrubbing in a shower, and it's just so funny to me that they'll do anything it takes for him not to talk and just like use his image. So the traders come in and they get cloaked and they must give their oath. Danielle at this point mentions that she has grandbabies and she wants to win money for them, and I was shocked by that and was like, didn't know how old she was. Seems like she's well for her to have grandbabies. My God bless. Danielle and Bob the drag queen are happy to find that they are both traitors when they reveal themselves in the turket after taking off their cloaks. And then Caroline's there. They're like, oh, great, you. Caroline has an interesting voice. I can't exactly put my finger on what she sounds like, who she sounds like. I know she looks like, again, Kim Zolciak if Kim Zolciak worked in a tattoo shop. But yeah, there's a celebrity or someone else that she sounds identical to. And I'm just like, and every time she talks, I'm like, who is it? It's like almost like it's the same feeling I have when I can't think of a song. It's like I know the song. It's on the tip of my tongue. Who does she sound like? I like keep playing her voice in my head. It's kind of like, and I'll find it for you. Everyone's like, and I say that everyone, okay, Caroline, when she reveals herself, everyone shrieks and no one agrees that she will be seen as a traitor, but it's very obvious that she is left out in what feels like this, immediate twosome between Danielle and Bob the drag queen. So then Rob from Boston, the one with the backwards cap that was, you know, offered up earlier in the episode, comes back in the middle of the night in the forest with a torch. And Alan says that he will be able to join the house, but he won't be alone. Oh, and only he knows that he will also get to be a traitor. Now, the others, we don't know who they will be yet. Alan says, there's other players hanging out. No, I cannot do that Scottish. Every time I try to even think about it, I just go immediately into Irish. So I will just say this. There's other players hanging about these woods. We see there's people in cages hanging, but who are they? Rob sees them and, laughs. Alan rolls an R like nobody's business. And every time I try and mimic his accent, if it's not coming out Irish, it comes out like Italian. God, the Scottish accent is so hard. Hard. No, that's Irish. Hard. Okay, well listen, not better, but I'm going to end at least episode 1 on that. Episode 2 is called Revenge is a Dish Best Served Cold. So Boston Rob gets to come in as a traitor, and we get to find out who he gets to be with. Guess what? It's Derek from Big Brother, a winner that I actually watched his season and remember that he was a cop and he never told anyone about it. And he just used this dumb hot comp beast and then screwed him over in the end. But the guy that he used always thought they were best friends and just could have been another one, but we all knew it was gonna be Derek. And then there's some guy Wes from the real world challenge. So he has a beard. He's well, Ginger, fun. I don't know him, but he's fun. They decide to make an alliance right away because they're hanging in cages and they're late in the game and they're all 3 big dudes and they think, which is true, that since they're all big dudes and compies that might as well. And that's true. It's a big, it's a big brother thing to make alliances here, there, and everywhere. Like, all the housewives can do is be in a housewife alliance. And the funny thing is, the housewife alliance is obviously usually females. And, if they can bring in, a gay male, they will. Like, which is an interesting, it's like the way this will probably also fall out in the future, because that's how season 2 was. And, we'll just see how season 3 ends up being. But so in the morning, everyone comes to breakfast and they realize that the traitors, and we know them to be Danielle, Bob the drag queen, and Caroline, have unfortunately killed Dorinda. Oh no. And Robin says it's things that they housewives have targets on their back because they're all loud and centers of attention. And I'll be like, Robin, I mean, are you that though? I don't really know you, Robin. I mean, sure, for sure, Dorinda is. For sure, Dolores is, and for sure, Bob the drag queen is. But like, I don't know. I mean, definitely, Ian is. So Dorinda would have been smart to keep, because she's a shield. That's what Caroline wanted, and that's true. Dorinda was loud. She was crying earlier on. So her being gone is weird and it's disruptive, which of course is also Bob the drag queen's motive to create chaos. But, Dolores is street smart, I say, but she had to go against Michelle and Bob, the drag queen. This is what Dorinda did, who thinks that she's not looking 10 steps ahead of the game, which is true. I think that there's a little hot-headedness, and it's a weird thing to have the foresight of like the maneuvers and chess style game moves you have to do, and like the repercussions, and then the options for repercussions. Wells doesn't say anything during this conversation. Tom Schwartz is just sweaty all the time walking around. And then Alan comes in looking like Cher from Clueless, and like in a yellow plaid number, honey, that it was gorgeous. That yellow plaid, when Cher like walks in and like Dee's like on the phone and like meeting up in the middle of the hallway and then hang up their phones. Oh, you know it well. That short skirt and the white knee highs. It's the same plaid. It's a Cher plaid. Caroline thinks Bob and Danielle are like crying too much and like putting up too much, like just doing too much, if you will, in this game. They think about, could it be Ivar? And then Dylan, Zac Efron's brother, trusts Danielle, which he shouldn't, who says it could possibly, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Moving on. I don't know what that said. Cut that out. Let's move on to the challenge. Challenge is 3 cages of new players, and they get sacks of coins to fill up for one player who then will give them a shield. So, 3 platforms: Rob, Derek, and Wes. Knowing now that they're going to come in, everyone gets to go find coins and then put them in their slots and then kind of wink and look up at them to be like, hey, in the future, remember me, remember who loved you, honey. It's like a reciprocity thing that's very interesting. It's also interesting because the 3 guys are given shields, and it's to, I guess, give them a little sugar coming into the house, being gamer comp beasts. They want to give these Trojan horses, if you will. I guess the Trojan horse is the shield to make them non-threatening. But it's funny because they can't be voted out, and then 3 shields means other people can't be voted out. Uh, adorable, and adorable repeated phrase that Alan will use is split flat, which reminds me of Mary Poppins, who I swear to God and that's Julie Andrews, would say, "Spit spot." So I definitely need someone from the UK, or maybe I'll look it up later, to tell me if split splat is spit spot. If it's the same thing, which means hurry up. Come on. Don't dilly dally. On you go. That's what that is, right? Tom in this challenge goes for Derek right away. Bob, the drag queen, hates Rob's hat, so he doesn't want to give him money, and we all do too. You know, but they end up getting it, and, it all works out, and they all get them in the end, and it's, like, a little bit of a funky challenge because it's like, of course, you're gonna get them all in the end, and they wanna make it seem like it's, like, riveting at the last moment that they get the coins in to save Wes, but, like, yeah, obviously, so but okay. This was this had a lot of, like, the murkiness of these 3 guys coming in, I think could have been probably handled a little bit cleaner, but here we are. At the RAND table, because there's been so much chaos and there's so many new people, and it's of course it's the first time, no one will talk. Finally, Wells does and goes for Robin, and Robin gets really upset. And then Bob the drag queen goes for Ivan, and the votes get split. Robin, Wells, and Ivan. Wells goes home clapping at first. And at first, people are like, he's clapping because, like you got why we got him out, but he's clapping. No, because he was safe or he was um not guilty. He was one of the townsfolk. He was a faithful. That's the word. Now I'll tell you, Hadiman, which is Ayan from The Real Housewives of Dubai, is so sad Wells left because Wells was also obsessed with her. Wells was like, Ayan came in and she is hilarious, and I literally just been talking to her the whole time. I can't get enough of her. But it's so sad because she's like, Wells, I mean, first of all, he could not get enough of me. He bumped to me right away and was like glued to my side. And he also just told me what to do the whole time, like told me how to play the game. And I really, really could use that because there's not enough producers on the show telling me what the fuck's up. I mean, that's kind of what I took that, but I like that. Um, so then, of course, the traders have their final, or the traders have their moment to pick who they're going to kill. And in that, tourniquet meeting, they realize a fourth is about to join them. And as they make way for a fourth body to come into the weird half circle, it is revealed that Rob is a traitor and one of them, one of them. We also get Dylan, who, of course, is Zac Efron's hot Efron eyelash brother, and Robin starting to suspect Bob the drag queen. Who, I mean, besides Alan, I don't know if, the Sam Spector who did the f fashion stylist for Alan in this is also doing Bob, or is Bob doing Bob? But if Bob is doing Bob, or if Bob has a separate stylist, whoever is doing Bob the drag queen is also fabulous. Honestly, everyone looks great, except for Chrishell, but neither here nor there. I even love so in the next one we have is called Nail in a Coffin. And in this episode, Dolores talking about fashion wears a heart sweater with the heart cut up where her titties are, and that's also very fun. As Rob gets revealed though at the top of episode 3 as a traitor, no one's happy about it. And no one being Bob the drag queen, Caroline, Danielle as being the other traitors. They thought they had a good thing going, and Bob the drag queen kind of ruled the roost. And Boston Rob is a whole ass gamer who has a lot of opinions and is very smart and has a different energy and vibe. And you know what? He's also not thrilled to find out who the traitors are. And why? That's not clear. He basically says they are too different. Now, to me, this makes me feel like Boston Rob wanted to see a dude there like Tony or Jeremy or Wes or Derek. That's who he wanted to see. He would have taken Dylan. But I think that happens later. He wouldn't even trust Dylan at this point. I would love, and I know why they didn't do it. Again, I would love it to be like Boston Rob and like Sam Ashgari. Could you imagine if Alan made Sam, I can't speak anything, Ashgari without it getting edited out? I mean, I just can't tell like what his personality is like. There's not really hardly any conversations they have of him. I just don't know if he doesn't make noise. But it's so funny, like, what if he had to make decisions? They must have known that, like, yeah, they must have just done so copious interviews and been like, he that one's mute, honey. He won't do it. Okay, so Bob says that he wants. This is the drag queen talking, of course, as a traitor, Dolores or Tom, because he wants again to create chaos and confusion. And the same would happen if he was killing Ian, who I really don't want him to kill. Um, However, Caroline and Danielle are like not into killing housewives. Bob the drag queen says that he will hear no other option, which is confusing because you literally just killed a you just killed Dorinda. So how could you say you're not going to hear another option when you just killed one? Also, how like as a person are you like in any sort of like collective or like on any sort of board or panel or in a trader's turret, knowing you have to work with others and say you'll hear nothing else when it was your like your pitch. You can't pitch something to a group and then say you'll hear no other options. It's wildly dictatorial. Okay, I'm just come on. Okay. Um and I'm just bringing this up because it's I don't know, it's just it lays to bear something that's just confusing to me in gameplay. We also start to get a little bit of like Caroline and Danielle are not friends, and they don't have a good vibe. Danielle says that she does not want to kill Brittany because that's who Caroline wants to kill. Caroline says it'd be great to kill Brittany. She's like a floater, no one gives a shit. And Danielle won't kill Brittany because Danielle knows that if Brittany gets killed, it will look like she thinks that she did it because they have this past. Now, Caroline should probably know that that's a little messy for Danielle. So for Caroline to pitch it without giving the caveat being that she knows it could be messy is a little LOL to me because it makes me think that Caroline is pitching it thinking Danielle won't know that it's suspicious for Danielle. And it makes me think that Caroline thinks that Danielle's dumb. You know what I'm saying? A little bit. So Derek early on, and I'm going to tell you that, so having watched 4 episodes, I'll tell you that my guess right now of who I wanna put my money on, of who I love, are not the Traitors, but I do love Derek and Dolores. Dorinda can't play. I don't think she can hang, and so my new duo, my new D duo is Derek and Dolores, who I think, hopefully, will have the street smarts and game smarts to play this game. And I really want Dolores to like put the housewives in it with a good word. But Derek obviously won Big Brother. So Derek thinks that one of the people that are the Cage Boys, which is of course him, Wes and Rob, the people that entered, one of them probably is a traitor, and he's right. Now he knows he's not one, and then the other two would be Wes or Rob. That's just math. Danielle's days, she says that she was in the daytime, she says that she was shaking all night and she was just so scared in the morning. And in her confessional, she says that she is such a good actor that when she goes to breakfast and she was talking about how she couldn't sleep and how she was shaking, it was like her putting on and like no one knew that it was like her really like bearing how she's a traitor. Now, you and I watched that and Rob watched that and we're all like, thou doth protest too much a little bit. It's funny because Wes gets told, or Wes says, don't talk to cops. Um, which as a Cage boy, I wondered, does he know that Derek is a cop? Derek's whole thing winning Big Brother was that he won Big Brother not telling anyone that he was a cop and using his cop skills, which Derek does all the time, which is so funny to me. Like Derek's Boston copness is charming in the way that in the fact that I'm blissfully ignorant to anything that could have been problematic in his career or anything he's done thus far because I just don't know. But you can only imagine. But you know what? Maybe he's one of the good ones. Um, uh, Also, Danielle says very loudly, "I know Bob is a faithful," which you don't know anything. So when Boston Rob says Danielle just should not fucking talk at breakfast, he's right. Because if I was just listening to Danielle, I'd be like, how do you know that? You can't know. All these, there's a lot of people who will be like, I just know this person's a faithful, or I just know this person's a this. And it's like, you all know you're on a show where people have to lie, right? Anyway. Um, of course, it's revealed at the end at breakfast that Ian has been murdered horribly. The one from Dubai that I love. Now love. Having never watched Dubai, but what a fun personality. And I feel like her looks are great. She literally when she's killed, she's like, who the fuck would murder me? Which was great TV. And it's true. She was not threatening. She didn't even know how the game was being played. And they had taken out Wells, who was her only ally. And they had already taken out a housewife. So, like, I'm sorry, they hadn't taken it out, but Wells had been obviously voted away. So, like, who is she? What does she do? Why waste a kill? Why? There's like, anyway, so that's wild to me. Okay. Um, we get into their challenge. The challenge is a fun house challenge where this is this is made to look, I think, more interesting than it is they get pulled into the outdoors area and they are paired off. Now, we don't know how they're paired off. It's just revealed that the person you're standing next to, that's your partner. And it's like, oh, well, then did you guys do this or did they do this? I would have liked to know. And in pairs, they are given a gold balloon, and in the gold balloon represents $2,000. And they have to walk into this fun house where there's like four levels, four different rows of doors in rooms that they have to walk into, pick the right one, and not get, I guess, killed by a murderous clown, and proceed to the next. All they can do is sort of, well, they can communicate to each other because whoever is, well, they can, sorry, I should say this. They can't communicate because if you are outdoors, if you are not in the challenge, you cannot speak. If you are in the challenge inside the fun house, your voice is being amplified out there. And so you are collectively supposed to walk in and tell the people what's happening for the betterment of the collective so that the $2,000 will be put into the pot for all. Now, at the same time, whatever pair gets through the end and completes it also wins shields. Now, people also have to volunteer to go first again, which, like the platoon thing, is reminiscent of people having to sacrifice themselves because they know whoever goes first has like a 1 in billion chance, but not really, but kind of, I can't do math, to get through the entire 4 door without, of course, getting killed. So that's a whole other argument, right? Another whole ass argument. And it's like a whole thing and it's upset. No one wants to go. Bob, the trainer, calls out Tony because Tony was like selfish during the platoon. And then we all remembered what happened. People who got off the platoon were then also accused of being traitors. They didn't want safety. And now everyone wants safety. And so um, it's whatever. Like, okay. So this is like I feel like this challenge is dumb. And there's only one good part. There's only one, I think, noteworthy part. I'll tell you that no one wins, okay? So it's like Who cares? But basically, Bob and Dolores are supposed to go in after hearing the first three groups miss and get 3 out of 4 doors wrong for the first entry level. So they know going in, or should, that there's one option for them, the right option. However, no one was able to really communicate the shapes, colors, and look deciphering each of the 4 doors separately enough verbally for the outside people to, like, clamor on. Also, we're not in the space. So when Bob and Dolores get in, honey, it's just a bunch of goddamn diamonds, and they cannot pick which one is which. They're like, maybe this one went, and they go through the wrong one, honey, again. And it's embarrassing for them. And me, I would be embarrassed too. I'd be horrified. Dolores is so upset. At this point, I'm like, come on, Dolores. I hope this like lights a fire underneath your butt. Um, Jeremy, at this point, also thinks that Danielle is a traitor. And Bob hears this and warns Danielle. And then when Danielle hears from Bob, the drag queen, she's like, who? Drag queen. Bob, the drag queen's like, Jeremy. She's like, that's all you had to say. Why? And I'm like, oh, okay. That's all you had to say? Or why? Okay. And he's like, why? Because he didn't believe you're crying. And Danielle is like so upset by that. Not everyone's a good actor, honey. Some of us have to go to acting school. Then we get this girls' clique of Chriselle, Nikki, and Gabby. And that's where Gabby's like, we're a girls' clique. It's Chriselle, Nikki, and Gabby. We're the girls, the girliest girls. We're calling ourselves the Bambis because we all have big eyes. Now, here's the thing. Chriselle has big eyes. Nikki has big eyes. Sierra has big eyes. Gabby, no, you don't. Girl, no, you don't. I don't think you have Bambi eyes. I don't think, I mean, I'm not saying you aren't beautiful. You are. But those eyes aren't big. I think she's really cute. I think that she has a lot of beautiful qualities, and I think she's a cute girl, but I just don't think those eyes are big. Enough for her to be like, "Big eyes, me, me, Gabby. Maybe I'm one of the bi bachelorettes." Or did she say that she was bi because she meant like there were 2 bachelorettes? Oh, honey. Okay. So Dylan, Zac Efron's bro, has a hard on for the gamers because he's watched them a lot and he wants to be like them. And he also, like, of course, doesn't want to be one of the lame duck sitting housewives. And he wants to kind of like look good. And so he's kind of like a little scrappy, big little bro of the gamers. He's kind of like trying to kind of charm and endear himself to them and get advice and see what they would do. It's kind of cute. I would love to know what Zach thinks of him. I'm kind of charmed by him. I like him. Jeremy warns Bob the drag queen about Dylan. Okay. Now this is bad because Dylan had told Jeremy that he thinks that Bob the drag queen could be a traitor. Jeremy had told Bob the drag queen that he thought Danielle was a traitor. Bob the drag queen had immediately told Danielle that Jeremy says you're a traitor, and now that Danielle is like, fuck you, Jeremy, you're dead. Jeremy has now saved Bob the drag queen by saying that Dylan has it out for him. And then Bob the drag queen, upon hearing this from Jeremy, immediately is like, well, I'm gonna go talk to him. And Jeremy's like, wait, no, don't go fucking talk to him, because Jeremy does not understand that Bob the drag queen is not a game player. This part is hilarious because it's like, yeah, if this was on RuPaul's Drag Race, you would need to have the confrontation immediately. If I was in like you know, the sewing room of RuPaul's Drag Race. And I looked at Bob the drag queen and I was like, you fucking listen, Wah. One Wah's talking shit about you. If Wah was on the other side of the room, I would have to assume that Bob the drag queen would be like, fuck that bitch, would turn around on his heels. I would watch him turn around and would walk right over to Wah and he would cuss her out, right? And that would be this TV show. That would be the vibes of this TV show. That would make logical sense to me. I would not tell Bob the drag queen about Wah doing that unless I wanted to create drama, knowing that Bob was going to do this and maybe like throw Wah under the bus. Now, now on Big Brother, or when I'm guessing Survivor too, when you tell someone a secret that someone has it out for them, your immediate impulse is that that person's going to keep it fucking closed mouth because knowledge is power in a game like that. And drama in scenes aren't. When you create drama in scenes, you put the heat on yourselves, you shine the light on yourselves, and you make people feel uncomfortable, and you end up pointing fingers at others and it points back at yourself. It's like it's not a good look for the game, right? It's a great look if you want drama. Jeremy did not know that. So Jeremy doesn't know that Bob the drag queen's already put a fucking like bounty on his head. Jeremy tells Bob the drag queen that Dylan wants his ass. And then in that moment, Jeremy gets double fucked over because Bob the drag queen's like, fucking, I'm going to go right now to Dylan. Now Dylan also will know that Jeremy is not to be trusted because this just happened. So Dylan's now going to get a face full of Bob the drag queen, knowing that 5 seconds he has just told Jeremy about this. So it makes Jeremy look horrible, untrustworthy. Jeremy knows that too. Anyway, so then there's Bob the drag queen versus Dylan, and Bob the drag queen comes way too hot, way too intense, way too much. Was just like, this is a fucking reality show, but Bob the drag queen's like, how dare you? You know, whatever, God bless. So at the round table, it really shuts Dylan up, and Dylan is, realizes that he has a formidable force in Bob the drag queen, who is a whole ass personality and very strong and very intimidating, but also is beloved by the cast. And Dylan is Zac Efron's brother. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's like, oh, like it's funny because there's Sam Ashgari is Britney Spears' ex-husband, who no one will talk to hardly. And the other like Nepo, if you will, Nepo baby or whatever. Nothing's it's like the same kind of like, adjacent star level adjacent person, of course, as Dylan. And people like don't know how to take Dylan because Dylan, Dylan's personality isn't known to us. I mean, neither is Sam, but whatever. Again, Sam's is sinister. So Dylan has to be shut up at this round table by Bob, who is like, nope. And Bob the trainer goes after Tony after Gabby kind of opens that. And after Tony gets called out for acting weird, and also for this moment where Tony was selfish and Bob had tried to call him out for not volunteering to go in the fun house, and Tony tried to throw that back at him. Then Boston Rob comes in out of nowhere and goes, one more thing about Tony, I'll just say this. Wasn't going to bring it up. But I gave that asshole my shield. You'd think he'd come once today just to be like, hey. But I got nothing. And that's all it took. Everyone votes him out, and he leaves loudly and calls Rob a sellout. And that's interesting. Sellout's interesting because they were like, what? We don't know exactly what the rules are of the exit monologue because it feels like they're told they cannot, they can't say, it feels like they can't make accusations about who's traitors and who's not. I'm surprised that people that then Tony calls Rob a sellout, He doesn't call him a traitor or suspicious or isn't like, I think he doesn't like warn people. S- Sellout's a weird word because what is he selling out for? Like, what is he like part of the Illuminati now? This is a game. It would make it seem like Tony thought that Rob put him under the bus to get something in return, but Rob didn't. Unless it's Rob gets, I'll tell you what Rob gets: an end to the round table, an end to the hysteria. It is interesting though. Rob already entered the game with like a certain kind of je ne sais quoi, a certain like legend status to him. The fact that he was the first one to be like, you could have Rob, and of course everyone was like, no. And then Alan's like, just kidding, Rob, you can enter the game. You'll be a traitor. With these other two, you're the traitor. And then he's still here. People listen to him in a way that's like makes me want to go back and watch Survivor. I mean, people are quite differential to him. So I will say that Derek, my boy Derek, says there's something there about the Rob Tony thing and the sellout thing. Bob and Dylan talk after Bob the drag queen, and he says to Dylan that he's a lot, and they kind of have like this moment where they have a mutual understanding, and Dylan is very sweet and is like, "Yeah, you're an amazing actor," and blah 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 blue, but still, Dylan Dylan took a shot that he wasn't ready to take as a young boy, and he knows he survived it, but he won't be as clean the next time. He starts to be in a confessional, Dylan, with like a gray heart sweater, like a button-down cardigan. That's adorable. I like Dylan. Have I mentioned that yet? Okay, so um, they realize, because Alan tells them, the traitors, that for them to decide who's going to be killed, it's not going to be normal, like where they just go to the turret and decide. They're going to have to meet privately, publicly, kind of, in the midst of everyone, and on the spot come up with a scroll and three names. And those three people will then be put in coffins. And then the traitors will come back, pick the final person, put the nail in the coffin, and that person will be killed. Now, this is sort of reminiscent of the burial from last season, which was so great. But here we are. This challenge again. I guess this I think it's a challenge. It's not a challenge. This, I guess, setup looks spookier to me than it actually ends up being scary in the sense of it. But okay, I mean, here it is. Everyone is hanging out, drinking as they will. In the bar area, there is a bookcase, and behind the bookcase is a secret room where Danielle, Rob, and Bob, the drag queen, meet. Caroline, during this time, is trying to find them, and she's, I mean, clicky clacky, up and down, honey, the hallways, trying to find them, and just in and out of rooms. She cannot. She says she's like galloping from room to room. It looks suspicious. People are noticing that it's quieter, and who knows what they think is happening. If they just think that, this is downtime or whatnot. I will say this. In this room, and I have to say this is how production is shooting a camera in the room with the bar. And people are in this downstairs castle area walking around. And if you are being filmed, you can see where the pockets of cameras are. There's obviously some maybe in the kitchen, as well as some of the stationary cameras that are always on, and then the people that are holding the cameras. It's obvious that there are people in the bar holding the cameras, and that's where the secret room is. The bar has the drinks, and so sometimes people are filtering in and out, getting bottles of water and stuff like that. But as they're walking into the bar, whether no one else is in the bar, I think they find it weird that there's a cameraman just there. No one else is. It's suspicious. Meanwhile, Caroline running around knowing the other three are talking without her, other people miss the sound of certain people's voices, especially Bob the drag queen, who's loud as fuck. So without Bob the drag queen being hilarious, probably truly and entertaining in the rooms, it's a lot less noise. And I think that that makes people suspicious. So Gabby goes to get bottles of water, sees one of the cameramen, kind of makes a face at them, starts to hang around because people are like, something's happening. Caroline has found them, has talked to them. They find their three people, write a scroll with the names on it, exit, and for some reason, they're all raised in a barn. Everyone from Caroline to everyone from Rob, because they have congregated in the secret room. They now exit knowing that it would look suspicious because they're all having to kill someone in real daylight, real time. And they don't try and close the door or make it clean. They just leave it open. Gabby, having realized she was in the room and no one was in there, starts to hear voices from that room, specifically Danielle's. You know what I'm saying? She sees her and hears her. And then later on, Dylan walks by and realizes the door is open. And Danielle realizes they left the door open. So Dylan just walks in and is like, oh my God, look at this room. Is this something up with this room? Is there something we should know about this room? What's different? Something's different about this room. Is this what we're supposed to know? I'm like, he's on his gamer thing. So Dylan's like, I mean, Sherlock Holmesing. This looks different. They moved this, and the scroll is right there. And Danielle's face is like, the fuck? Just in there, like, I don't know. I'm, like, she doesn't know what to do with herself. And that is how the first 3 episodes of season 3 of Traitors ended. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. On Peacock, which is where it is, on Peacock, they dropped the episodes. And that was the first week. And on the second week, they dropped episode 4, 1 episode. So I've watched up to episode 4. And again, on TV now, they're just putting episode on episode up. So 4 episodes are out wherever you can watch them, at least is on Peacock. And we're going to get to the 4th episode, I'll Bury You Under the Sand, in the next podcast episode of DocuSweeties. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I know that having just one voice may be not as fun as others, but I will tell you that I hope, my loves, that you join in the conversation then. Please help me talk about this. So wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, make sure you're commenting on this YouTube video or Patreon, wherever you can, or our social medias, and tell me what you're thinking about. The outfits that you're loving, the game moves that you're liking. What do you think of Alan's picks for the Traitors? Obviously, Rob is like the biggest game player. Bob, the drag queen, is like the loudest one. And then you have 2 women who are very strong and then trying to find their place, and the ways that they're trying to find their place publicly for the faithful is one way, and then trying to find their place as traitors within the foursome is a whole other, right? I want to hear all of your thoughts and what you think of Dylan, what you think of Sam. I love the show so much, so really into it. Social medias are at DocuSweeties on Instagram, at DocuSweeties on TikTok. And my God, that was a crazy situation with TikTok. What a crazy, by the way, life. What a crazy past 5 years. What a crazy January. I where do you even stop saying it? But at DocuSweeties on X with a 1 at the end, the Facebook group, the DocuSweeties podcast Facebook group. I said podcast. We are also on YouTube. Make sure that you go subscribe, like, share all our videos there. Of course, we have a Patreon. That is patreon.com/DocuSweeties. We love you guys so much. I really miss Wa. I know you guys too. If you want to catch up with her, she's just Call Me Wa on all the social medias. And of course, I'm at Chris L. Farah, and I will get at you guys later. I love you guys so much. And yeah, bye. It's a long episode.